as a traveler going to some of the most beautiful places in the world, grew up as a surfer and a sailor on the water. And it was really important to me that brand would resonate with people who care about the environment and want to do something for proactive change.
Hey everyone, this is Nazar Akil from Max Pro.
Hi, I'm Linda.
And I'm Paul.
And we're 11 Pebbles.
Hi, this is Lopa Vandermersch from Rasa.
Oh, and you're listening.
And you are listening to the E-Comm Show.
Welcome to the Ecommerce Show, presented by BlueTuskr, the #1 place to hear the inside scoop from other e-commerce experts, where they share their secrets on how they scaled their business and are now living the dream. Now, here is your host, Andrew Math.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Ecommerce Show. I'm your host, Andrew Math, and today I am joined by the amazing Brendan Kennedy of NxTSTOP, a travel leisure brand that was created during the pandemic, which is going to be incredibly fun to learn about. Brendan, thank you so much for being on the show. You ready for a good show? You ready to do this?
Yeah, totally pumped. Can't wait.
Awesome. I would love for you to kind of kick stuff off, let everyone know a little bit more about NxTSTOP, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so NxTSTOP was an idea that I had really starting about 2015 or so. I'd been traveling my entire life being consultant. So I was doing the out and back kind of, road warrior life, flying out Monday, coming back Thursday. I did this most notably for 2 years straight, doing JFK, LAX every single week for 2 years. And I started to, have this idea about I would wear the same thing every time I go to the airport. I'm only packing carry-on. And I needed it to be this versatile type apparel that I could wear, get away with multiple situations when I couldn't bring that many things with me. At the same time, I didn't want it just to be apparel. I wanted it to be something, a little bit deeper. And I started to think about sustainability. I've been, as a traveler going to some of the most beautiful places in the world, grew up as a surfer and a sailor on the water. And it was really important to me that the brand would resonate with people who care about the environment and want to do something for proactive change. So the original idea that was this travel lifestyle brand was kind of the highest level. And then it took me quite a while. It took me almost until 2019 before I was able to understand the sustainability piece for the supply chain and make that a central piece of the product offering. And I mean, find the right suppliers. I actually met, if you know surfing, Kelly Slater has a brand called Outer Known, where they're super focused on sustainability. I happened to randomly sit next to the CEO at a conference who ended up really being nice to offer me, come into the office, meet the sustainability team, and let's help you kind of do this. So 2019 rolled around and I had this concept, okay, let's combine the sustainability with the travel and the functionality. Let's call this Trav Leisure, almost like Nike Dry Fit. So I trademarked, this is the function of the product. NxTSTOP is the company name, of course, but we were literally getting ready to launch the brand in 2020. I'd actually left my full-time job. I'd only worked in, as I mentioned before, technology and consulting before. So 2020 in January, I left my job thinking, all right, travel is really hot right now. This is going to be the perfect time. We were sampling these collections of the travel leisure apparel and basically set up to do a photo shoot on March 7th, 2020, which we did. And then the next week, the entire world shut down. So it was not the path that I figured, but that's the path that we took.
So you very well could be one of the most educated people we've had on the show. I know you're a Stanford grad. You have a MBA at MIT. So obviously, I'm going to guess you were pretty well educated on how to pivot once something like that happens, or at least adjust as much as possible. So how did you literally spent, I think I believe you started the company in 2015, 2016, right?
It was 2016 when I filed the paperwork, but nothing really happened for quite a while because I was just working part-time, and trying to figure it out.
So you even part-time for the better half of 4 years, and then all of a sudden you're getting ready to launch, you're all pumped, and then it just doesn't, the world just doesn't let it happen. So how'd you kind of approach that?
Yeah, well, they talk to you a lot in business school, and, Stanford in particular would like to claim itself the entrepreneurial capital. The MBA schools, I think all of them really do a great job of bringing that to the forefront. And you take these classes about entrepreneurship and you talk about this word pivot. And much like cash flow and other things in accounting class, which you don't really get until you have to do it in the real world, I feel that that was the similar idea of this concept pivot. It's a different thing when, maybe your product doesn't work and you need to change ideas, but you have money, you have things you can do, resources to make it happen. For me, I'd left my job. I had, the COVID pandemic was setting in, and it was basically something has to happen or, I'm going to be really in trouble myself and not really sure what to do. So the idea of it was something that one of the suppliers I worked with that helped us launch a couple of the initial accessories called me up, based in China. He says, listen, are you thinking about these face masks yet? And I said, well, I don't know. We're over here. It's still, we're still kind of evaluating. He's like, I'm telling you over here, this is what's happening. And you gotta be thinking clearly about it. At the same time, talk to a friend of mine in New York who's head of the fire safety for all Metro North Railroad and Long Island Railroad. And he's telling me how bad it was and all the people that were dying and how this was not going away. And I was out for a run kind of thinking about this idea of the mask when suddenly it just kind of hit me like a lightning bolt, right? Is if this is that bad, if everything is going the direction that people around me are reporting it is, then this is 100% going to be important to what people are doing for not just travel on planes, but getting on the subway, going to hotels, going to conferences, even just being outside with people. And I came back from this run and I was a little hesitant about doing this, but my girlfriend really pushed me. She was very confident that this was the type of thing that I should do. And I took all the money that I had and I laid it into a purchase order to do a Travelwear bamboo mask to basically be the best reusable mask that you could have that would be antimicrobial, super soft and breathable. So we took the idea of Travelwear and we pivoted it into this one specific product where we knew that the world was going to need it. And we launched on April 1st. So this was one of the very first brands, I think, in the world that came out and had inventory to do this. And from there, it sort of exploded. And I can talk about that too.
Yeah. And you didn't have any kind of limitations toward, you're talking about April 1st, 2020, correct?
2020.
So you did that in a matter of weeks, which is impressive.
It was super scary. It was super scary, right? Because we were trying to sample, because we had to sample the thing before I was going to say okay. And I was talking on WeChat, trying to figure out, fabric options. I wanted to do the bamboo, but getting things into the country was really tough. I mean, you got to understand, they shut down all plane traffic. So that meant that most commercial airlines that are taking cargo stopped. So the only people who were transporting anything in the world were DHL, FedEx, maybe UPS, but really DHL was outside the US. DHL is who everybody uses, but getting those samples into the country was taking longer. And then they were looking everything at face masks, like, is it medical? What does that mean? So it was a little challenging just to even get the samples. And then when we launched on April 1st, we were selling everything in pre-order. So we went live on the site. We had 10,000 units that I put all of my money into to get, and they were still in production. So they were not yet here in the US. And then we got coverage by Vogue, New York Mag, I think GQ, and a few others right away. And we started to sell like crazy. So then it was a factor of we have, tens of thousands of people who were coming onto the site going, we want these things. But still, the freight and getting it into the country was a challenge. I was driving to LAX myself, grabbed my girlfriend too, and we were doing trips to intercept the cargo and bring it out to a warehouse and paid the guys off in the warehouse to like expedite it and get it going so that we could ship these thousands of orders. And in that meantime, I realized this was going to go bigger, and I put in an order for 100,000 to sort of scale up.
Wow. It's such an interesting story because we, obviously here we work a lot with e-commerce sellers, and there was a lot on the apparel side that were like, we got to get in a mask. And by the time they actually were able to make it happen, there were some limitations over what you can advertise and where you can put it and what you can say about it and all that stuff. And you were just in time to basically get grandfathered in so that, everyone who had their rules in place didn't really matter. So that's incredibly impressive that you're able to get it done that fast.
Yeah, it was what occurred was interesting is Amazon actually came to us. So when we got this coverage for our site, they reached out to us and said, we see that you're doing this. You got this coverage. Do you have inventory? We want to bring you into the Prime program for FBA at a time when they'd stopped letting anybody else in for any product, right? Because they were so overwhelmed. And they managed to sort of walk us through the door. And then that immediately scaled things up enormously. So May 5th or May 3rd to 2020, within the span of about a month, we were able to get in there. But it was challenging. I mean, they didn't really have listings for face mask stuff or what were the words, and it was a little irritating to kind of set it up. But once we did, then we immediately also moved across Amazon Mexico, UK, and Canada as fast as we could to get that reach too.
Wow. So you're essentially 2.5 years in since you launched, and
Yep.
you're already well into 7 figures, pushing 8, I'm imagining. And, doing that in that short period of time for any e-commerce seller is incredibly unknown. Like, that's just not very common. Do you feel that had the pandemic not happened, obviously NxTSTOP is what it is now for a reason. Do you think that had the pandemic not happened, that you would still be at where you're at now, based on the current approach that you're now back
No,
to?
not at all. I think that's the most curious part of that when you think about how the universe works and the way that things are going to take the path that is meant to be taken. Apparel is a terrible segment to raise money in, to start as a new business. It doesn't have infinite scalability like technology, and to raise money as an early lifestyle brand is extremely difficult. I mean, I think took also such long time to think about the product and do things because it was difficult to even get money to initiate the first few pieces. And the way that I funded the brand in 2020 was I took all the money I had, which was really miserable at a time when the stock market had like halved. I sold it all, put it into the brand. Then to scale up, I went to friends and family, actually several friends who did a convertible note with me for a little bit. And then another friend introduced me to an investment bank that funded the working capital for us to do this. But as you could see, most of this money was, they saw the demand, we were in the right place, and they gave us the money because of that. And then when we came out of the pandemic, we did an SBA loan to basically further scale up. Now we're just closing an A round, really. It's sort of between seed and A to get to our next piece. And the reason we were able to do that is because people could see, now because of the mass business, we've worked with Delta, we've worked with Virgin, we've worked with Avis Budget Group, we're in Amazon. But it was because of this wedge with the mask and this unique time period that we were able to move and get the scale that we did. I don't think without that, we wouldn't have been able to get such explosive awareness and growth. I mean, even though we're still small and our awareness needs to build, but to prove for travel that there was a brand that could be doing this, the pandemic was key, which is the opposite of what you would think based on what happened.
So let's jump ahead now to today-ish. So obviously, NxTSTOP, Travelwear. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, so what we do is it's NxTSTOP the brand, but Travelwear is this design concept.
Yeah.
So if you think of, you buy Nike, Nike has Nike Dry Fit. I think Vori and some of those guys have these special fabric mixes is effectively what it is. So we call Travelwear our mix of sustainable fabrics, either organic, biodegradable, fully recycled, with some sort of versatility, function, either wear it for multiple days without stinking, super anti-wrinkle, versatile for situations where you could dress it up and dress it down, ultra lightweight, breathable. So it's those concepts. That's what we call Travelwear. Yeah.
So travel can be a relatively broad statement. Are you strictly sticking to, as you mentioned, it kind of stemmed from like you being in an airport all the time, things like that. Are you strictly sticking to that direction, or have you gone into different verticals of travel?
No, it's interesting. Like, we've tried to use a lot of the customer data to understand better what the segments are. Now, we really have 3 customer segments. The airline for sure is one, and that is, I think, the core beginning. But then we have two others, which is this, intra-city commuter. Like, I'm living in New York, I'm living in Chicago, I'm hopping on a subway, I'm commuting across town, I'm going to coffee meetings, maybe all day long. And then there's this road warrior type one too, where the weekend warrior, where, hey, I'm in LA, I'm gonna hop in the car, drive to Joshua Tree or go to Big Sur, and there's some sort of light physical activity that you're doing. So I'm either in the car, I want to be comfortable, but I need to look good enough, and be ready for whatever the situation is. So those are the three customer segments that we started to build out as we've now been introducing the apparel for men and women, and seeing the response to that.
It's a very interesting customer profile, because that person could be incredibly interested in one thing, or they might just be hiking out at Joshua Tree for a little while,
Yeah.
like once a year kind of thing. So it's very interesting in how you've been able to build this brand based on people that are either traveling a lot or are just occasionally traveling. What has your marketing approach been to kind of be able to reach all of those different customer profiles?
Yeah, it's shifting now. I mean, I think in the beginning of the pandemic, affiliate was a huge channel for us, and I think ideally we would do more of that. But it's focused back in on social, but the social landscape has been shifting. I mean, we increasingly are using a lot more TikTok to do short form video, UGC, and testimonials, and really, finding that letting people talk about why they love the brand, why they love the apparel in particular, is the strongest thing. And we want more of that. I'd like to be inundated with those types of videos all the time, and really just use them to showcase it. But at the end of the day, there's still a lot of this brand awareness that we're still seeking to do, especially with influencers at the social level, to prove that brand authority, and to make sure that when people think of travel, they think of NxTSTOP. For us, SEM is by nature something that we do. We try to show up in an SEO to show up organically for search results. But we've just noticed with the apparel in general, people aren't, until you get to be big like a Nike or somebody, people aren't coming and Googling you, right? There's very, that is a limited value, although a very, very valuable and efficient return. So it's this top of funnel, really driving the social awareness, and then shifting the channels, more towards TikTok. YouTube is one we really want to break into and think could be huge for the experiences. The Facebook, of course, we continue to do, although that shifted a bit as well. And then have that drive opportunities in PR, in the affiliate channels, where we can have more people coming to the site, and really continuously improving the awareness. And finally, of course, at the bottom, that as people know us more, either seeing us in social, seeing us in PR or affiliate, that organic piece starts to come in. Now, just very separately, is Amazon is kind of its own beast, right? So we still ironically sell a lot of masks in Amazon, and that's where a lot of people find us. I run into people in the airport, and I see them with our masks with the little plane logo, which, by the way, if you fly Delta or Virgin, actually Virgin doesn't have them, but Delta does. If you see the masks with the plane logo, if they're still wearing them at all, those are ours. So people find us, they see us there, and it almost acts as an additional reach. But Amazon is Amazon. It's a little different.
Yeah. You said a lot of interesting stuff there. So there's so much to unravel in that. So for the SEM SEO side, that's a very common thing I've found with apparel brands. We have the same problem every time we talk with apparel brands, like Google ads. You're going up against the guys at Hanes that's selling a t-shirt for $15. Like, what are you going to do? You can't beat that out. The SEO side, though, what's interesting, that my thought, what has your approach been on that side? Because one of the things that we've always discussed, specifically, for apparel brands, is, too many of them we find trying to target, the best, like in your case, would be the best t-shirt for traveling, or the best pants for traveling, or something like that. And to me, that's that's going to be tough to rank for, because like you mentioned, like the Nikes of the world and stuff like that, you have to go against. But have you done anything along the lines of a little bit more broader from a brand awareness perspective, and then just retargeting them? So let's say top restaurants at O'Hare, to go to, because chances
Yeah.
are they're sitting in an airport trying to find what to go eat at or something along those lines. Is that kind of more of a broader approach that you guys have taken there?
Well, it's interesting. We've used blogs for experiences and other things that will draw them in. So it's similar. I think what you're saying is you create other content that's relevant to bring them into the site, and then sort of through that link out to products and things.
Yeah.
Is that yeah? So
Yeah.
that we've done that increasingly. I think
Mhm.
to not even just with the I think our domain authority needs to be higher before people are coming to us for search for that. But we're having a lot of success with email where we create those types of things and we push it out to our email list instead of just buy the product, buy the product, buy the product, So that to me, I think is great. I would love to, if you've seen any other ideas about the articles and how to drive it purely for SEO SEM for inbound. I've seen some of the travelers who have the best sites or best things to do, but I
Mhm.
don't. That might be a very long tail thing for us. We have to see
Yeah.
unless we pick like a really really unique topic.
Yeah, this is true. And you had also mentioned TikTok, which is obviously a hot topic right now because it's taking over. Everyone was so reliant on Facebook and Instagram. And now I believe even CPMs on TikTok are higher than they are on Facebook and Instagram. So a lot of question around whether that platform's going to get a little bit more ad heavy than it is right now, and kind of what their approach will be. From a TikTok perspective, most sellers, relatively simple to get some ads up and running. You create one or two videos and start testing it right away, which tends to be the approach that they want to take. But what's been your approach for organically posting on the platform? Do you have someone internally that's creating that type of content, or are you solely focused on
We
UGC?
it's been we're going through a transition now where we've been trying to for us put together the organic stuff and post it, but we're in process of making that more core to what we do every day and working with a
Mm-hmm.
group to help us create more of the organic content, not even like as you said the ads and testing, but
Yeah.
what we're hearing around is that the organic TikTok piece is really is the magic. If you can get that to work, you can drive a lot of sales just through how great it is. But as a small team, and we're 9 people right now, you need to really be every day ideating and creating specific things, which we have a person coming in who's going to help us do that. But I wish we could be doing it. You're absolutely right. I think that we've seen it be more expensive. We had a lot of success in the beginning of the holiday season last year. We had a couple of those UGC, review type ads that were done that we white labeled or whitelisted, and it was very successful. But then the pricing kind of went upside down, and it
Mm-hmm.
just became crazy. So then we had to really pull back, and we're still trying to figure out the kind of method to do that.
Yeah. So, from a resource standpoint for everything, which you've kind of mentioned a handful of people internally, like what does your overall org chart look like? It's very interesting to me of e-commerce sellers when we talk to them about someone who's got one or two people, even though they're well into 8 figures, and then you have
Yeah.
other people that like keeping everything in house. What's your approach been?
Well, we try because we've built everything on these native e-commerce platforms. We tried to automate everything possible. So my plan here is to have a team that's just the best possible team we can have.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, as we get a little bigger, also the best paid in the industry to keep those people around. But where we can use agencies very selectively, we will. But for core functions of that, the creative director role, the paid media, the brand director, even to some degree, like the customer service and things, we're going to keep that in house along with our head merchant. So these core functions, I believe we might have a pretty flat structure and people who lead each one of these initiatives, and then a few, maybe an assistant or two that helps them execute. And what we can't do with that, we'll farm out to do additional pieces. I don't foresee us as a brand even getting to 50, $100 million, needing more than, 15, 20 people total to do this. I think it's more of a, okay, we need to do more content. Well, who can we engage outside? But how are we controlling that process from inside? Sales teams, we do a lot of wholesale things now, working with new companies through distributors or through promotional products groups. So we don't need a big sales team to go do it. So how can we be as lean as possible, but really control, I think, the core element of what it is that we're trying to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Beautiful. Brendan, I really appreciate your time. I don't want to take up too much more of it. I know you're busy.
No worries.
I would love to give you the opportunity to let everyone know where they can find out more about you, more about NxTSTOP, and we'll wrap stuff up.
Yeah, absolutely. So to find us, first of all, we had to start a new social account, which is kind of curious. Facebook being Facebook. You can find us on the new one at NxTSTOP Apparel, NxTSTOP Apparel. On TikTok, it's different. It's the NxTSTOP. So you can come check us out there. Obviously, the website, thenextstop.com. And then on Amazon, if you're an Amazon person, you should be able to search NxTSTOP. We have our brand store there with not all of the products that we have on the website, but a lot of the core ones. And we also offer the same Amazon shipping on our site as on Amazon itself. So either way, you're good to go.
Beautiful. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Obviously, everyone who tuned in, thank you so much again. Please make sure you do the whole usual rate, review, subscribe on whichever podcast platform you want, YouTube, or just head over to ecommshow.com. But per every time I say this, thanks for joining. We'll see y'all next time. Have a good one.
Thank you for tuning in to the Ecomm Show. Head over to ecommshow.com to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or on the BlueTuskr YouTube channel. The Ecomm Show is brought to you by BlueTuskr, a full-service digital marketing company specifically for e-commerce sellers looking to accelerate their growth. Go to BlueTuskr.com now for more information. Make sure to tune in next week for another amazing episode of The Ecomm Show.